Reach high, aim high, and obtain. Welcome back to TaylorIt, and I want to show you how we address creating sprouted hard white wheat berries. And that's what is in this big white container over here. And we've already opened it up. There's actually a Mylar bag in here, and what we do is we keep this oxygen absorber in with the wheat berries so that when we finish with what we need to, we can basically take, this is the one instance, we actually use a flat iron, not for our hair, and we seal this up so it maintains the freshness of the berries, because this is such a huge 5-gallon container of wheat berries, and it's a way that we can have this and know that our grains are staying fresh and sealed and all that fabulous stuff. Now, when it comes to sprouting, there are different types of lids, and we do have some older ones where we bought them initially, but these are actually, I found these a few years back, and we have stuck with these ever since. It's 100% stainless steel. It's actually 3/16 stainless steel, which is just a little bit above surgical stainless steel grade, which means it prevents them from rusting. These are basically, once you got them, you're pretty good to go. It's by the brand EchoPeaceful. And one of the many things I like about it, other than being stainless steel, there is no plastic contact with our grains or food during the sprouting process. It's very tightly woven so that it does what it needs to ventilation wise, but it prevents bugs, even tiny ones, from getting in, which I love that because it's protecting the contents of our products. Now, one thing I do want to mention is my mom will actually be taking these wheat berries, and I'm so excited. She makes her sourdough bread from these sprouted wheat berries. So I'm excited to show you finally my mom in the kitchen making her special bread that, I mean, she used to make bread all the time for us growing up that was fresh, homemade, and we would actually have people come visit. And I remember one instance, we had some really great friends over, and he was like, "Can I take this home?" He actually requested to take my mom's bread home with them when they left.
That was the best compliment.
And it was the best compliment. She was like, "I'm okay with that," because that was such a compliment to her. I do want to mention that because that was, we still remember and talk about that to this day because that was such a huge compliment. Because truthfully, there is no flavor quite like fresh bread out of the oven, especially fresh sourdough bread, which is what my mom tends to make. Now, what got me actually into sprouting years ago is actually this book. And it's the blending book, and this was actually created by Ann Wigmore because she went through a health situation and was needing to restore her health at one point in her life. And one of the things she did, and I have this flagged, and it's on page 38, and it's called Making It Rejuvenac. And this is actually the process on how to make natural acidophilus in your own home using wheat berries. And you may be like, wait a second, I can make homemade acidophilus? Yes, you can. It all begins with the sprouting process. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the instructions in here from Ann Wigmore regarding the making Rejuvenac, because that's the main thing that actually makes the natural acidophilus from these grains. But what we do is we use it to create the bread. We'll show you how we sprout the grains. We actually, after sprouting the grains, we dehydrate them, and we use that to actually make our homemade sourdough bread. Another great thing about the sprouting that I want to mention is because things like nuts and grains such as this contain what's called phytic acid, and that's PHYTIC acid for those of you that are curious. It actually binds to nutrients and prevents the body from absorbing the nutrients that are naturally present in the foods. And so therefore, when one sprouts them and sprouts the nuts, and I sprout my nuts, and I have a great example of a sprouted almond nut, and I will have to show you how we do that because that's just awesome, is it actually helps to remove that phytic acid. In nuts, it also removes what's called a enzyme inhibitor, and it actually helps make the foods more easily digestible to the body. And with that easier digestion, that means you're getting more nutrients out of your food. And it also provides a higher fiber in the instance of the sprouted grains. Now, even though sprouted grains have a higher fiber in it, especially with sourdough, for example, which my mom makes is awesome, they are still a type of carbohydrate. So as with any food, it's about moderation and being aware of that moderation. And I will acknowledge that we have a better digestive experience with the sprouted grains than we would with non-sprouted grains. And we've actually experienced that, and we refuse to go back to the non-sprouted grains ever again. So that's another reason why we do this, is we can actually see the difference in our body with the consumption of regular non-sprouted this grain versus we sprouted the grain, dehydrate it, ground it up, and actually make our sourdough bread. What we're going to do then is we're actually going to take 2 cups of our berries, and we're going to put this in a half-gallon container. Okay, so there are 2 cups. And then we're also going to add, and I found this years ago, this is a product, it's called Dr. Willard's Ultimate Water Ultimate Concentrate with naturally occurring trace minerals, and added it to his Willard water creation. And this is something that can be taken with one's water, and it's got how to do it and the measurements to use. This is a company that we also use the plant cows in, but you basically shake it, and I have this little pour spout that I put on it, and we're basically just going to do this. And that's why I love this pour spout, is it gives me control of the portions that I use, and I can just do a teaspoon, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to follow that by filling this full of water up to the top. We always purposefully do 4 of these, because we found if we do any less, that with the amount of requests I get for things like German chocolate cake, that I don't have enough grains otherwise to do this. And it's most important to me to be able to do this. Now, one thing that I will also point out is we make sure that everything is thoroughly clean. So one thing that we love to do is put these in the dishwasher. And so it basically takes care of, with the white vinegar that we use as our rinse aid, it takes care of the sanitizing aspect that we would need to do with the cleaning. Okay. And this should be our last one. And then this is the one that we added the liquid to, so we're going to do the rest of these with our Willard water. Now you can add a different mineral or concentrate if you would like. This is just simply the one that we use because, one, I already had it on hand and it made it easier for us, and it's a great product, and we use it for our water, and like I'm showing you here, sprouting the wheat berries. I love to use this with my sprouting of my almonds. Now what we are going to do is we are going to add our water. So we're going to come back to our first container here and show you how this is. So I purposely put the funnel there because I want to prevent any potential water splatters. Okay, and we are filling it to our 8-cup line, so just a little bit more. Okay, there we go. And now what we will do is put our lid on this, and we will just leave this for 10 hours. I'm gonna finish the rest of these, and then we just find a place to just leave it alone, and then we'll come back and show you next steps. I'm going to show you now how we close this up. So this part is still remaining sealed, which is great for me because it prevents me having to do stuff there. And then what we'll do is we'll come down and we are going to hold that. And I'm trying to get as close to the top as possible because each time one opens this, it causes it to lose the volume that you can seal with. So I like to get as close to the top as possible on this. And I'm simply counting in my head 1, 2, 3, 4, and then moving on to the next section. One thing that also helps is you can do it like hair and basically go down it and straighten it. Okay, I'm gonna push this down in a little bit.
Get the oxygen out.
Yes, it pushes oxygen. What I'm trying to do is get to the last inch, last little bit here, be able to squeeze out the oxygen really good and then immediately seal it. Because the less oxygen, as we all know, exposure with food, the better off the food will be. It has been the needed about 12 hours. It's ideally 8 to 10, but timing wise, 12 hours I found for us works best. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna strain our water. And this is the combination of the water with the Willard water concentrate in it. And get that strained, okay? And then we're going to rinse them again. I'm purposely using my funnel so I don't have a big spill. Okay. I'm going to use my stainless steel lid here with the seal on it. It's by the same brand. Turn on. Give it a quick good shake. Get everything well rinsed is what she refers to it as. We'll put a special lid back on. And then we're going to drain it again. I'm purposely turning it upside down to get all of that water as much as possible.
And then we'll use this water.
You can see it's still coming up there just a little. Okay. And then I'm going to shake it just because I want to make sure I get everything off of the lid from the turning upside down. And now we're going to put it in our special place for it to sprout. So let's move over to our sprouting location. This one. Okay. So Dad built us a couple of these and we're going to use this one right here. So basically the back's higher than the front and the front's been cut out to perfectly facilitate the size of the container. And what'll happen is you can see right here, the water is coming out of here and then dripping down into our kitchen sink. So that way we don't have a whole bunch of clutter, but it's pretty and organized, and we can visually also see the sprouts. Now, if you want to take it an extra step, which you can, and she does recommend you can put a cover on this. Now, what you can do is cover it. I like to make sure I leave the lid part uncovered, but we use our little Bon Appetit towel I bought a few years back, because who doesn't like Bon Appetit, right? And then we'll let it drain here, and then we'll come back, and for the next 2 days now, at least 2 to 3 times. We basically do it 2 times, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. We find that's most convenient. But ideally, you would want to, if possible, to do this 3 times. And you basically refill it with filtered water again, rinse them around, shake them around, drain it again like I showed you, and you put it back here. And that's what you need to do again, 2 to 3 times over the next 2 days. Because this water is just so precious, we like to keep it. So when our measuring cup can't fully fill it timing wise, we bring out our really, really big bowl that I bought a few years back, and it allows us to save all this water during the rinsing and the preserving of this water that we initially got, because the vitamins actually in berries is very potent, especially when it's sprouted.
And we put it on our plants, and then we get...
Yeah, and then they get the benefit of the Willard water, because actually there is a product called Plant Catalyst, and we do use that. And it is by Willard water, and it's designed so that you don't have to water your plants as much if one's in a drought area, and they flourish really well because why? It's got those fossils in it. So, and you can see how dark the water is.
The water is.
And that's from the greens and the Willard water.
That's pure minerals.
Yeah, and you can see, and I think this is good to show. Let me find it here. Is our 2-cup line is like down here, and it grew, it doubled. It doubled in size just by doing the Willard water and water together. And so what we'll do is I've got to put more water in these, and again, rinse and drain them, and we'll drain them into here so that we can maintain the minerals and we can put them in our garden.
Now, most people won't do this, but just
Yeah.
because we have the Willard water.
Well, and plus because we know, and you can see from the color, there is vitamins and minerals that naturally occur from wheat berries. And we just simply view it as it's a wise thing to do, because if you're going through all this effort, why not maximize what you're doing in your garden potentially? So we'll put this to drain now. So we'll add that, cover it, and you can see because of what we're doing, there's no actual grains really getting to the front, which is fabulous because it's facilitating everything draining, but nothing really covering the main hole here. And that's what's so important, is to avoid covering the holes of these so that it really is getting the ventilation for sprouting. Okay, so we're going to do the rinse for tonight. So we're going to put our filtered water in here. Oops. We're going to put our filtered water in here. If you can see it, but a few of those I'm seeing a little bit of a white head pop out.
awesome.
Not on all of them, but actually I think you can see it better here. You can see just a few of them have the white head to them. That little bit of the white head is actually the sprouting. So we're already doing really good. And then we're gonna put on our lid, and then we're gonna strain
Love the stainless steel lids too. Those
Yeah,
are
these
so
are-
helpful.
these
Now
are
they
also-
do have those that have the like legs on them, but they're
Yes,
plastic.
we actually had those. Yeah, we had those a few years back. And yes, they do work, but we found this method works better because if you're turning it completely upside down, it's not getting enough ventilation, I feel at times, because then all the grains are actually on top of where you're trying to get the ventilation that actually makes sprouting happen. And this method with the platform Dad made us here, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And I'm gonna see if maybe you guys can help me convince him that he should sell them, make them and sell them. And maybe we could get some feedback on our channel to tell him he should sell these because they're absolutely beautiful. And they do such a great job too. And he even put, I don't know if you can see, but he put little cushions on it that actually protects our countertops.
Whatever it is that,
Yeah, it protects our countertops and the surface, okay? And then there you go. And then we're going, and you can see, oh, see right there? There's a piece of a bit of a sprout. And right there, a little bit right there, but you see it more for some reason in this one, right up there. Can you see that?
That's awesome.
So it shows you it's already sprouted.
Working.
Yeah. I'm gonna put our towel back on and we'll do the others, but at least that gets us the first set done. There you go.
Sprouts
And
are
we'll
under
come,
dark cover.
Yes, and then we'll come back tomorrow morning and we'll do that same process again. It's the next morning, so we're gonna take off our towel. Bring with, oh, look at this. See how much sprouting? See that?
It's doing good.
It's doing really good. So, again, going to add water because we're rinsing them again. Remember, it's the rinse and strain because we're trying our best to keep the contents moist because the moisture without, you know, obviously the overwhelming of the moisture is what helps them to sprout. So put on our lid. We'll give it a good shake. Alright. And then of course, the drain. But look at all the sprouts.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's
Let
beautiful.
me turn on the light there. There we go.
Oh, that's nice.
I forgot to turn on the light. Apologies. Okay. Just making sure we get the majority out. Okay. So I'm going to shake it down. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful.
And then we'll put it back up there. Grab our next container. Give them a dark spot, and you can see this one's still kind of draining right here. And we're gonna let that do that, and then we'll come back again tonight and do it again. We're gonna be doing this again. Look at how big they've gotten.
Oh my goodness.
And that's just since
fabulous.
this morning.
That is
You can see how
fabulous.
much just a little bit of time will change things just a little bit. Let me get my lid out here so that we can give them a good wake up with the water. I don't know if you want to get a better view of that or not.
Look at that. Look how much they've grown.
Yep. got a few there on the lid there. But isn't that awesome?
So now
So
you're doing
we're gonna add more
the
water.
filtered water.
Yes, always filtered water, or the
Or
best
spring water or well water.
basically the best water that you can get to do this with. But you got to realize that one thing that we did do that also is helping the situation is the fact that we put Willard water in it, which is loaded, and it's the one that has the trace minerals. I mean, look at how full it is too.
Sheesh.
That's a full container, basically at this point.
Remember how low it was before?
We started with 2 cups. You got to realize that.
Great.
2 cups of wheat berries, and we now with the sprouting have a full container. And it'll get even bigger because we're going to do this tomorrow morning is when we're going to, let's see, we've done yesterday, we did twice today, and tomorrow will be tomorrow morning I should say, will be our last day of doing this. I'm just trying to make sure I get the majority of the water, and I like to shake it down so it's not covering the vent. And you can see it's just a little bit of coverage there where it's sticking. But other than that, we're good. And it won't take as much water because it's so full with the wheat berries. But still have to give it a good soaking and rinse. Now this is an instance, remember how I mentioned how there are some lids that have the platform with the plastic? If I were to do that, see that? It would cover the hole and it's not getting really any ventilation in there. But by using this kind of lid and the platform my dad made, I can shake it down. See, it gets off the metal. It gets off the metal. And then by angling it then, I get my ventilation too.
Wow.
So that's one
Look at
thing.
that.
Yeah. So it's one thing I do want to mention that there are, I just find this approach works a lot better to get the true, I mean, look at how long this sprout is right here, for example. I mean, that's almost like an inch. And that's just showing you how powerful doing this approach with the sprouts is. And you can see it's still leaking water now.
And then you cover it up and it'll be...
Yeah. I'll take my towel because you want to kind of you want them to have the ventilation, but you also want to kind of have them, you know, covered in some way. So it's kind of making the perfect moist, humid, dark environment. But that's how come we also use the filtered water and why we do it the way we do, because you got to realize that there's also, when you're talking humidity and moisture, there's also the potential for things like mold. So that's why it's very important to be careful how you do this kind of stuff, because you're wanting to facilitate the sprouting, but control the situation under which you're doing this. Now this, because we have sprouted and we're not turning this into Rejuvelac or our acidophilus, we can just put this actually on our drying rack for our dehydrator. So let's go do that. So we have these special sheets that I bought, and actually I purposely bought, I don't typically like to use silicone when it comes to heating something, but we'll keep this at about the 95-degree range so it won't be too bad. But this is actually silicone sheets. And you can see because of how pliable it is. But the reason I bought these is I noticed that with the standard Dehydrator's sheet, it comes with the Excalibur, which is this one. You can see the holes are quite different.
Quite a bit of difference.
Yeah, and what I found is when I used the wheat berries on this, the tails would actually fall through and I would have an absolute mess in my dehydrator. And I didn't want to use my flat with no hose silicone piece, because what I found happened is then it was kind of like it was sitting in water and it was still silicone too.
Right.
So I was like, why don't I get one that has some just a little bit of ventilation to it, right? And be able
Perfect
to,
solution.
yeah. And so it's kind of a workaround and makes this happen. So I'll show you how we just start taking this out, and it's quite dense. So you may have the tails that you've created naturally, you know, fall off because you have to kind of get your hand in there to dig and get it loose sometimes, just because it gets so thick. But that's okay. I mean, you can see it's kind of netted together, and you just want to spread it all around. It just doesn't want to come out.
That's being grateful for small hands.
Yes, I know that's probably why Dad likes doing, I think, at least a day shorter than I do. Even though I get, you know, a bigger sprouting, and you can see just how beautiful the sprout is. My dad's hands are bigger than ours, and so it's not as conducive for him to be able to put his hand in the jar and do this. So he likes to actually do more like less than 2 days. That's probably enough
for that tray, huh?
Probably, but let me get this out. I've already got it going there. Okay, you can see it's quite dense, and they're kind of, woven together with each other. So we're going to move this to the side just a little bit so I can get a second tray out, and we can spread it more evenly. So we'll take this, and the reason we're doing this is because we're going to dehydrate them, because I found, one, if they're not dehydrated, that they can become kind of moldy if you don't, dehydrate them. Or if you're trying to make bread and you're trying to grind it, it doesn't grind very friendly. So I just found it's a lot easier in the long term, and for food safety and everything, that if we sprout them, which means they're at their peak of nutrition basically, and then dehydrate them, that it'll actually make it so that they're dry enough to grind in our Vitamix. It'll stay a lot fresher because they're dry, and then we have the nutrition properties that we want, which is the sprouting with the Willard water. And so we can put this now in the dehydrator, and we'll
Do you
just
think that we need to move some of this over there though, because this looks pretty dense?
Well, let's see what the heaviness does. That is a bit heavy. Sometimes you gotta figure out what you need to do weight-wise too, because sometimes it does need a little bit more of a spreading out. Because you can actually raise and lower, well, not raise and lower, you can remove shelves in the Excalibur dehydrator to get to the height that you want between the food and the next shelf. But sometimes you want to also be a little bit cognizant of how much weight you're putting on, because I wish these were more like wood or stainless steel, in my opinion, to hold the weight, because I don't really like plastic, because like you said, it can, bow. So let's see if I hold up the sides. It's not too bad. Okay, so we'll put this in the dehydrator. So we'll slide this in the dehydrator, and then we'll go to the next shelf here, and we'll just continue this on until we get, it looks like I'm gonna have a full dehydrator, to be frank, because I'll have to remove some shelves, because this one was so high with the sprouts that I actually had to remove a shelf. So we'll probably have to do every other shelf, which is okay, because we got the shelves to do this with, and we'll just continue doing this until we've got all 2 more containers to add to our process. And then we'll put on the dehydrator, like I said, around 95 degrees, and we'll just let it process. It usually takes about 24 hours. For those of you that are wondering about how long the processing time takes, and it's easy. If you're not sure, feel free to open up the dehydrator door, take out some, and just kind of crush it between your fingers and feel how dry it does or doesn't feel, and that'll let you know if it's done or not too. So it's time to take off our wheat berries from our Excalibur dehydrator. So this is how it ends up, and you can see it's very much because of all the sprouting of the tails, well, I call it a tail because that's what it kind of looks like, of the wheat berries. It kind of interconnects it all. And what we tend to do is we tend to take the wheat berries and actually put it in this container. As you can see, it's quite full right now. But my dad has made the special request of me making him a coconut cake. So instead of putting this in the jar like I typically would, or a glass jar for preservation, I'll actually be putting it in our Vitamix dry container here so that we can get our needed 3 cups of flour for our coconut cake that I received on special request. But I'm gonna surprise him. He's requested it, but he doesn't know necessarily when he's gonna get it. So I'm gonna put this all in there. And I've found with the dry container, and I don't know how many of you have found this out yet or not, but I thought I'd mention it. I found the more wheat berries I put into it, the easier it is on the machine when it comes to grinding up from the grain to the flour. It's almost like it gets the extra bulk that makes everything come out smoother and everything, which is really weird because you would think it wouldn't matter how much you put in there. But apparently, I guess it's like the old grinding wheels where the more you put in, it guaranteed the flour would come out well. So we'll put that in there. Now you will see that some of the little sprouts tails did come through, but the majority of it, which is what we were looking for, did stay on the actual shelf medium.